Thank you, Aaron. You know, first I want to thank the Cub Scouts again, many of whom are educated in Lakeside schools. So, thank you. All right, it's my pleasure to introduce Senator Brian Jones. So, Senator Brian W. Jones represents 930,000 people in San Diego County. The Senate District goes all the way down to Lemon Grove, all the way up to Fallbrook, and everything east. So, Borrego Springs, Julian, pretty big district. Senator Brooke Santee, he graduated from Grossmont College, and he earned a degree in business administration from San Diego State University. So he's a local guy. He raised his family here, and his beautiful wife Heather and 3 kids are all here. Not here tonight, but they're all here in the county. And Heather is here. She's back over there. So, but prior to his election in the legislature, he worked in commercial real estate, and he was elected to the Santee City Council in 2002, and then was elected to the State Assembly. And I just want to make a couple of comments. You know, Senator Jones is somebody who, as a school board member, I'm excited to have in Sacramento. He speaks our language. He understands the issues in our community because he lives here. He knows East County, and he's somebody that I trust in Sacramento to fight for our kids. And, you know, more than that, he's just been such a great asset and helped me in many things. So I appreciate Senator Jones, and I want to introduce him tonight. Senator Jones, come on up.
Thank you, Boyd. It's pretty spectacular that Andrew was Legislator of the Year without even completing a full year of legislature. That's how good of an elected official he is, community representative. He's so good, he won it in 4 months rather than 12 months. So, good job. I'm going to put my glasses on for just a little bit because when they're on I can see my paper, and when they're off I can see you, but right now I need to see my paper. So just a couple of comments, and then we're going to open up to questions. This is our 4th one this year. We've had a great round of town halls from Lemon Grove to Fallbrook to Escondido to here, but this is the biggest one so far. And so Lakeside, give yourselves a hand for people ask, you know, quite often what are the best and worst parts of the job. Well, this is, believe it or not, one of my favorite parts of the job is coming out and having these town halls, hearing what's on your mind, so that when I go back to Sacramento, I can represent you to the best of my ability and what's important to you. This is our busiest time of the year. We just completed a legislative recess a little bit ago, so we're in our final grind of the legislative year. And this last month, before we break in the fall, we will hear, debate, and vote on over this year 1,200 bills between August 12th and September 13th when we break for recess. Now that's a lot, but we started in February with 3,000. So somewhere between 3,000 now we're able to whittle it down to just 1,200. Not all of those 1,200 will make it to the governor's desk. Historically, when Brown was governor, about anywhere from 900 to 1,100 would make it to his desk, and he would veto anywhere from 20% to 30%. So somewhere around 700 bills each year would become law. Well, this is Gavin Newsom's first year as governor. He's vetoed a couple of bills already. Actually, he vetoed one of mine, but he signed 3, so we got 3 bills signed, so that was good. And so we'll see what he does once we send all those bills to his desk. Hopefully some of the worst ones will die and never make it to his desk, which would be my goal on a lot of them. So, I went way off my notes, so now I'm lost. Covered that. Oh, let me introduce my staff. You met some of them already. You met Aaron, and you met Andrew, and their names are similar. So I got Andrew Hayes and Aaron Andrews, and they do that on purpose so I get confused. So I shipped Aaron to the North County office in Escondido so I don't get confused as often, so he's up there most of the time. But my chief of staff from Sacramento is here. Craig Wilson is our I don't know if Collins got introduced, but Collins is our district chief of staff. He's back there in the back. Actually, they're doing it to me right now. Aaron and Andrew are next to each other in the back over there. Where's Lori? And Lori is here. John Mendez is my former chief of staff, works part-time now in the district office doing community outreach. Lori is in charge of, she's the go-to person if you have a problem with any state agency. She knows who everybody is in charge, and she'll call them directly for you if you've got a problem that you can't solve. Lori's the person. Did I forget anybody? Any interns? Got a couple interns here from my office, and then so that's it on staff. And they work really hard. The staff are the ones that really do the everyday hard work for the constituents to make sure that you're getting the best value and representation, not just out of me, but also out of every state agency that your taxpayer dollars pay for. So a quick update. So there's a pretty important issue that's been impacting East County. For much of the year, my office has been receiving calls from constituents who live in what are considered high wildfire risk areas, and have been informed that their home insurance will not be renewed. Does that happen to anybody in here? A couple of people. It happened to my best friend. Lives in Santee in one of the newer neighborhoods up on a hill. So he got the non-renewal also. So obviously this has created an understandable amount of anxiety and stress for families that I represent. At the moment, the legislature does not have the authority to dictate to a private company an evaluation process for their decisions. So all of your insurance companies are evaluating your fire risk on their own without the input from the legislature, which probably they should be. So lawmakers, regulators, and stakeholders, all of us need to come together to work out a solution. If you're in this situation right now, or know someone who is, please visit our constituent services table. That's Lori over there on the side, and she will help you with the Department of Insurance information on what you can do to get new insurance, appeal. I think you can appeal the non-renewal and help you get taken care of. So if you're in that situation and you don't have a solution, please see me. I guess before I forget, also my wife is here. My wife Heather is back at the constituent services table. She's working part-time tonight in constituent services also. And then finally, as we enter the wildfire season, I want to encourage everyone here, especially in East County, to take necessary steps to prepare your home and families for wildfire. The Lakeside Fire Protection District is here tonight, as Aaron mentioned, and they have handouts on how to help ensure you, your family, and your home are fire ready. Now, the way these things normally work, I left my water somewhere. Oh, right there. Great. Thanks. So, Aaron kind of explained, a lot of ideas are going to be brought up tonight, and a lot of questions are going to be asked. You're going to agree with me on some of them, and you're going to disagree with me on some of them. And that's part of our representative republic, and your ability to be addressed to your government representative. That's why I'm here. But one of the things that we've been able to do at all of our town halls is keep the conversation on a polite and professional and productive manner. And one of the things that is good for me in that process is I'm able to hear you better. And if I don't understand your issue completely, I've got staff here taking notes that when I get back to Sacramento, we'll study those things and figure out how we can do a better job. Hopefully we agree on almost everything. That would be nice. But we're all human beings and we all have our own thoughts and ideas, but let's just make a promise to each other that we're going to have a friendly conversation and dialogue and figure these things out as we go. So with that, let's take a question. So, yes, sir.
Is it a fact that gasoline taxes would go to the general fund as opposed to a dedicated fund for infrastructure?
Thank you. That's a very good question. The question is, do gasoline taxes go to the general fund or to a dedicated fund to pay for infrastructure? And the answer is kind of both. The majority of the taxes do go into the general fund, and then they're divvied up by the legislature wrapped up on June 13th. Some of the taxes do go into dedicated funds. So sort of rate fees, some of those go into dedicated fund. Voting and waterways, they have a dedicated fund for some of the gas taxes. And so there are a few departments that have dedicated funding, but for the most part, yes, they do go into the general funds. And it's up to the legislature to apportion those proceeds as they see fit. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ma'am.
Hi, I'm Patty Schwinn. I'm a lifelong resident of Lakeside. I received a flyer in the mail from California about the proposed 2020 ballot measure about congestion tax. What do you have to say about that? Are you familiar with that?
The 20, is it a referendum or is it a...
I think it's hard to do a free range in a certain time period. That can be a measure on the ballot.
I am not familiar with the right now, with the ballot measures, they're all in process with the Attorney General and getting their summaries and their titles. So I'm not familiar with that particular,
okay.
But we can look into it. You'll share it with one of my staff members.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Could you explain the new education, multicultural, explain what it's about?
Well, you guys let Andrew off easy on that question. So how many of you are up to speed on the recommended or suggested curriculum going through the Department of Education right now? Jill, of course, is so a lot of hands. So the question is, am I familiar with or can I explain the curriculum that's going through the process right now? So there's two things happening. And the Jewish caucus in the Senate and the Assembly are very upset with some of the rewriting of history in history books and what's being presented to the high school level as far as the history of the Holocaust, the history of immigration in the United States, the history of racial tensions in the United States. And so there's a lot of debate on how this is being presented factually or ideologically. And there's several people, as I would assume by those that are familiar with it, are upset about how it's being presented. The other thing that you need to be aware of is there's a whole new sex ed curriculum coming out from the state of California to begin sex education as young as kindergarten. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of it here tonight because really a lot of it is fairly inappropriate and disgusting. And so I really encourage you actually I don't even know how to encourage you to research this. And you got to help me out here a little bit on the sex ed curriculum. How do they get more information on that?
You know, the California Department of Education has the entire framework all listed there, so you can just go straight to the website and look up, new health education framework, and then it's a lot of stuff to read, but you can read it, and
thank you. I didn't want you to Google it, because you know. So go to the California State Department of Education. Jill might have good
Also, Informed Parents of California has a great Facebook page and actually a site. It has a lot of great information on there. You have grandparents, you have kids in education, you need to be informed.
Informed Parents of California on Facebook. So if you have kids, grandkids in the public elementary, junior high, high school, you really need to be up to speed on what this curriculum is going to be to impact your kids. And the only answer I can give you is take your kids out of public school. And I apologize that I have to say that. And let me condition that. That's if this stuff gets approved and gets put into the schools. Your only chance of mitigating this taking it. Right now, it's only proposed, but we have an opportunity to fight it. And I encourage you all to send letters to the Department of Education. If you send a letter to our office, we'll forward it to the right people. Senator Morrell from Rancho Cucamonga has a great website. So you can also Google Senator Mike Morrell, and he's got a lot of good resources on it as well. Yes, ma'am.
Senator Jones, before you were in office, there was another thing passed, kind of a follow-up to this, about primary language in 329, about the reference to know, has anybody studied the cost to the taxpaying public of making all these changes? And how can that be done in light of our state constitution? Are we changing the constitution? And if so, does that not require a vote?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And one of the rules I'm not following a parent, and I'm trying to keep in mind is introduce yourself when you're asking a question. So the question was on the gender neutral language within the schools. Welcome to my world in Sacramento. And it's really disappointing that in our culture in America right now, that this is what has been risen as the #1 social problem in our schools and in our education code and our business and professions code. And that is actually a really good fiscal question. The question was, did anybody analyze the cost of making all these changes throughout the business code, which is a huge document for the state of California? And the answer is yes, they did analyze that. Yes, they did have a price tag. And regardless of however big the price tag was, they went ahead and approved it anyways, and are forcing this down, or in lack of a better term, down our throats, and making us accept it. Well, I'm choosing not to accept it. It's really prevailing in our colleges and our universities. I get emails and correspondence from college professors all the time, and in their signature line now, they state their preferred pronouns. Because I guess in college you're not supposed to assume somebody's gender. This is a problem. It's a challenge. It's way bigger than I'm going to be able to solve by myself, or we're going to be able to solve even in this room together. But it's something that we all need to be aware of, and that we're paying attention to as we go forward.
Nikki Summers, public school teacher at Elmore Valley High School. But I'm here to speak not to education issues, but to ask you about AB 5 over status bill that's in front of you. Employees and employees and independent contractors. As you might imagine, given all the things that have been discussed, I'm transitioning into being an independent travel advisor and a regulatory manager. I don't want to be full-time. Most travel advisors don't. It's the same with recruiters. That needs to be an exemption. We're going up to Sacramento to speak to that, so we thought you might speak to that.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. It's a pretty detailed conversation. And also let me condition my comments regarding public education real quick too. For those of you that are teachers in the public schools, I know you guys are doing the best job that you can, and not a lot of the public school teachers don't even agree with what's being forced into their classrooms, and they're doing the very best job that they can. So let's make sure that in all of this tension regarding these issues, that we're supporting our school teachers, because they're on the front line of this issue, and it's important that they know that we support them. Regarding AB 5, which is Lorena Gonzalez's bill on independent contractors, let me just take a quick poll. How many here are independent contractors? We file a Schedule C or 1099 rather than W-2. All right. So the California Supreme Court, I think, made one of the worst decisions in the history of the California Supreme Court. And one of the reasons it's the worst ever is because it was unanimous. And basically, they opine that there is no such thing as an independent contractor. That if you work for somebody and do work for someone, you are an employee of that someone. And so, to the lady's point here, she wants to be a travel agent. She wants to be an independent contractor and not, work at her own pace, on her own time, maybe from her own home, and not have to be summoned into an office, not have to have a supervisor. Most of us can work without supervision, I think. Most parents are responsible adults. We don't need someone to give me the assignment, tell me what to do, I'll get it done. I don't need you, hanging over me to figure it out. So, with AB 5, and it's tied up in what's called appropriations right now, because there's still some more work to do. Lorena Gonzalez is trying to get as many exemptions for different businesses as she can into that law. Now, the legislature was kind of forced into writing this law because of the Supreme Court decision. The challenge with this bill is the only way you get an exemption for your type of business is if you have a lobbyist in Sacramento. If you don't have a lot, if your business doesn't have an association and doesn't have a lobbyist in Sacramento, you're not heard about. So those of us that are business owners, I'm a 1099 independent contractor. My wife is an independent contractor. We're trying to make sure that everybody's voice is heard on this. I really don't know what's going to happen with the bill. I would imagine some portion of it's going to pass, because some of it has to. It impacts doctors, it impacts realtors, it impacts every independent contracting industry in California. It impacts, and we're trying to fix it, but the Supreme Court didn't do us any favor. Did I come close to answering your question? Okay. Mr. Hiller.
Thank you, Senator. Back when you were in the Assembly, you were working on a Made in America legislation. Where did that end up? How did you end up doing that? Because I kind of lost track.
Thank you, sir. It passed, for one thing. But I'll tell you about it. So when I got to the Assembly, my first year there, a manufacturer in Carlsbad called Venturi, and you all may have one. It's the device you pour your red wine through to aerate the red wine so you can drink it right away. You don't have to wait for it to air or whatever, breathe in the bottle. And it's made in the United States, except for one part, and it's the black rubber band that goes around the middle of it. It's not made in the United States. Mag lights. Everybody have a mag light? Those heavy-duty aluminum body, waterproof flashlights. Those are manufactured in Ontario, California, by a gentleman who's now 81 years old, Tony Naglica. That's the name, Naglight. Everything on that flashlight is manufactured in Ontario, California, except for two parts: the rubber grommet, or the rubber seal, and the light bulb. Now, Tony is so committed to making stuff in America that he bought the company in Germany that makes the light bulbs and was going to move it to California to produce the light bulbs in California so that he could get more parts made in America. Well, after he bought the company, he realized he can't move it to California because California doesn't allow the manufacturing process that goes into making the little bitty LED light bulb that's inside the flashlight. So I got a hold of this. I go, so here's what the law is. 49, now there's 50 states. 49 states and the Federal Trade Commission agreed on what Made in America meant. And basically it meant that the majority of the part was manufactured and assembled in the United States. Who's the one state that thought differently? California, of course. Now, the law said you can't call it Made in the USA unless it was 100% made in the USA. Now, you got the part that Tony wanted to move the light bulbs here into the USA, so he didn't have one more. So he couldn't even do it if he wanted to. That's not the worst part of the bill. The worst part of the bill is it had a private right of action in it, which is a legal term, that if you're harmed, you have it's called the Private Attorney General's Act, you can take that company to court. So all the ADA stuff that went around here in Lakeside and Ramona and Julian and Alpine a couple years ago, when people were getting sued for not being ADA compliant, same type of law. So somebody went and bought a $33 mag light and a $12 Venturi. A different person went and bought a Venturi aerator, got it home, realized it said Made in the USA on the packaging, but it wasn't completely made. It violated California law. So Maglights had to pay out $2 million in a fine, and Venturi just settled theirs so that they wouldn't have to pay the fine. And then Venturi moved out of state.
Yes.
So I ran the bill, and I got through my first assembly committee, got to my second assembly committee, and guess who came out all of a sudden against my bill once it got passed? The consumer attorneys came out of nowhere to fight my bill and killed it. And they killed it dead that first year. Okay? Go back to my second term. We get it to the first committee, we changed it a little bit, it got to the second committee. We actually got it out of the assembly and over to the Senate. So it passed its first house and then died in the Senate Judiciary Committee because the trial attorneys got to the Senate, the members of the Senate Judiciary Committee and killed it there. But I had two Democratic senators that were on that committee that liked the bill and had voted for it. Just them plus the few Republicans that were on the committee wasn't enough to get it out of the committee. So the final year of my assembly, we changed the language a little bit. I started it in the assembly. Senator Jerry Hill started it in the Senate. We got them out of both houses. Mine died in the Senate. I co-authored his bill through the assembly. It got through the assembly. It got passed and signed by Governor Brown. So all of that to say, you can now say made in the USA if you manufacture in California.
My name is Dave Engel. I'm here to ask you, given the fact that animals are anally, genitally, and orally electrocuted to make fur, and that it takes a toxic soup of chemicals to maintain fur so that it stays together, and that 85% of fur is factory farmed. So it's not like deer where you can make the argument that there's no fur population. These are factory farmed. So given the torturous abuse of the animal and the terrible environmental effects, would you explain your stance on Assembly Bill 44 that bans fur?
And that was the fur ban bill?
Yeah, the fur ban bill, Assembly Bill 44.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate the comment. I noticed there was a couple of advocates for the bill here. And I apologize, I don't know the numbers of the bills, by heart. There's 3,000. Thank you for explaining that. So the question is, why did I not vote for the bottom line is, why did I not vote for the fur ban bill? There was a bill, I don't know who was the author. Freeman? That was Freeman. The newest, I think she's new this year. This might be her second term. When I got reelected to the Senate in November, I had only been gone from the Assembly 2 years, and out of 80, there was 28 new Assembly members from the time, the 2 years I was gone, so I don't remember where she came in. But the question is, why did I not vote for the fur ban bill? And the proponents of the ban brought in some pretty compelling reasons to support the bill. I think the bill passed committee, it was in judiciary. It did not pass.
Yeah, it's in appropriations.
It's in appropriations now. I did vote against the bill, and on Natural Resources Committee. And really, it came down to a couple of things. One, I didn't hear a lot about it from the constituents that I represent, that I'm elected to represent in Sacramento. I heard a little bit, but not a lot. The most compelling reason for me was the gentleman that came in from the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce that made a very good, compelling argument in not banning it, and I think he was able to get some language in the bill that the ban doesn't happen as soon as the bill originally proposed. So I was the bottom line, I was more compelled by the opposition than I was the proponents of the bill. Which happens quite often.
Right, but what part of the opposition were you compelled by?
The questions that he brought up as to the motivation of the bill regarding its impact on certain ethnic communities in the Los Angeles area. I thought that was compelling.
Right, but ethnicities don't get to abuse the animal. That's not part of it.
Right, so I'll get to see it again in appropriations. I'm on the appropriations committee. And as I have said, your organization has done a very good job of arguing for the bill, and we'll get to see it again. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
One man made you make that decision.
What, one man?
One man, that made the argument.
Oh, that's a good question. So,
He's got a whole organization behind it.
Right.
But one guy,
there's one guy that represents thousands of
but
people.
you're supposed to do what the people want,
Right.
not what you want.
Oh, I get that. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I took the arguments from the proponents and I took the arguments from the opposition, and I made my decision. Not
On one guy.
on his testimony based on the
One guy.
Yes, one guy. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Now that California has pretty much closed a lot of the recycling centers,
I'm sorry.
there's recycling centers.
Right.
There's a lot of people that rely on money that's collected, and not only emotionally as far as being sustainable, but also recycle their products. The fact that there aren't any more recycling centers in California, why are we still being charged CRP charges?
Well, first of all, I did not know that recycling centers were being closed.
Like 600 of them.
Okay, we'll look into that. I do, and so that's something I'll have to look into because I'm not familiar that they're being closed. Why we're still being charged the CRP? Because legislators, tax-hungry legislators, once they get a fee in place, it takes a lot of energy to undo a fee.
How do we undo it?
Well, there's a couple of ways you can undo it as the people of California is to do a ballot proposition and get it undone. That'd be one way to do it. Otherwise, the other way would be to vote for people that are going to go to the legislature to undo it. And so that would require a switch in the dynamic of who's in charge in Sacramento.
In addition to that, I just want to note that if you buy bottled water, it's almost paper thin. And it's getting thinner and thinner and much more difficult for people that are handicapped with an open cap, which is so tiny. That said, when CRB was first collected, it was based on the quantity and mill thickness of the plastic, because then you are able to recycle it for a certain amount of money. The thinner it gets, you're still paying the same amount of money, but you're getting less back because it doesn't weigh it.
Right.
Another issue that.
That's a good issue too. So when I was in the assembly, I was on the budget committee that dealt with recycling. And I do remember from those years that the recycling program in California is going through some really tough financial struggles. Because believe it or not, when you create a program where you're going to pay people to bring plastic, aluminum, and scrap metal to a recycling yard, guess what happens? Aluminum, plastic, and scrap metal comes in from Oregon, Nevada, Arizona. And so we found, when they did an audit of all of that, truckloads of stuff coming in from other states to get the payout, which of course they were. They're creating a market. So we'll look into that. Those are issues I haven't heard about there. Let me move on because we've got some other folks with us.
My name is Bob Moran, I'm retired. Can you talk to us about SB 24, which would force abortifacients to all the college campuses? Is it passed?
Okay, SB 24 that forces what?
The chemical abortion.
The RE 486.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Even out in college.
Yeah, the question.
No medical free, no free required medical.
Right. Yeah, he's asking about the bill, he kind of leaves us off, that allows universities, colleges to, sorry?
I would more say it will force all of the universities in California, including the Catholic private universities, to provide, are you for it?
The chemical abortions, right. Okay, yes, sir, thank you. I believe that the bill has been amended to, it allows them to, I don't think it's requiring them to, but I'll check into that too. But yes, that bill was introduced into the Senate. It passed on a party line vote. At the time, compelling universities and colleges to offer the chemical the morning after pill, what they call it, on all college campuses. So there are some religious liberty challenges with it. It went to the assembly. I don't think it's passed the assembly yet, so I don't think it's on the governor's desk. But I voted against it. Most of my Republican colleagues voted against it. I think even on that particular bill, some of the Democrats voted against it, but it still did pass with way more than 21 votes out of the Senate. It'll pass out of the Assembly too, unfortunately. And the governor will sign it if it gets to his desk. Yes, ma'am.
Pat Wright,
Okay, well, we talked about the fur ban, and we said at the beginning, we're gonna have a polite dialogue about it, and,
Fur ban.
well, you mentioned fur ban, so I just, that's,
No, we didn't say that, it said something else.
it's a long way, I kind of break my hearing people with this question. It says indirectly for about ferrets.
okay, I don't,
Pat Wright, legalizeferrets.org. I spoke to Aaron, I asked if I could bring my PowerPoint presentation. He said, no, you have 30 seconds, so please
and
forgive
you'll
me.
notice nobody else has a PowerPoint, not even me.
No, they said no power. So anyway, I'm reading it, but the president of the Fish and Game Commission told ferret lovers they would not legalize ferrets. Doing so, he said, would require a full-blown EIR. And afterwards, the commission would be sued by the environmentalists. He told us to get a legislator because legislation isn't subject to CEQA. Ferret lovers have been trying to do this since 2004 when Governor Schwarzenegger vetoed a ferret amnesty bill. Currently, we are thwarted by environmentalists who won't even acknowledge our question. When we do hear from them, their position is, we don't need another pet. One was even heard to say they would outlaw dogs and cats if they could.
They would.
So my question, Senator Jones, what would it take for you to take our request to help us legalize ferrets seriously? And thank you very much for the opportunity.
I appreciate that. So did everybody have a question? There's a lot of folks in San Diego County and other parts of the state that have ferrets as pets. And currently, under California law, ferrets are illegal. You're not allowed to have a ferret. I don't know what the penalty is for having one. And they've been working since 2004 to get ferrets legalized, and they want to know why I won't or if I would take up the issue. So here's my answer. I met with several of the folks when I first got into the assembly. We actually had that conversation with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. I talked to several of my legislative consultants and legislative colleagues, and for whatever reason, even with all the animal lovers that there are in Sacramento, in the legislature, which I'm an animal lover, I've got pet dogs, and they are right, they can outlaw our dogs. That organization, whoever it was, quote, would do that as well. I just perceive that there's not enough interest or energy in Sacramento to get that bill passed. That's the bottom line.
My name is Ethel Valdez, and I'm from Lakeside. We find that hookah lounges, restaurant/hookah lounges are further and further encroaching into our residential areas. And I wonder what can be done about that. We have one at the corner of Winter Gardens and Royal. And it's a heavily trafficked area, but we don't live very far from there. And it just seems like they're coming more and more and more. Soon they're going to be in Lakeside proper, I'm telling you.
We were under the assumption that smoking in a restaurant was illegal.
In a traditional, so the question is, hookah lounges are becoming more and more common.
Hookah lounges for the restaurant.
Hookah lounges for the restaurant. So there are, and I'm not a lawyer, and I didn't write that law, but there are exemptions to it. For example, there are a few cigar lounges in town that have food service and alcohol service with the cigars. So I don't know what the dynamics are, how they get their exemptions. I have not heard that hookah lounges are a problem. That's county. That's all county, right? Or are we in the city of Oklahoma? It's Winter Garden, so it's county.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that we don't have a representative from Diane's office here, Diane Jacob. Have you contacted her office and asked her about the zoning on it? Okay, don't tell her I told you. But send her office a quick email and see what kind of response you get from her. Diane Jacob, your county supervisor. Diane Jacob, the county supervisor, she's the de facto mayor of all the unincorporated parts of the county.
Eileen Cummings from Ramona. I'm concerned about the transportation in Highway 67 seems like the backcountry people are, we thought we had the funding and was going to widen 67, and it would be safer for everyone from Lakeside to Corona. And I understand there's somebody in Caltrans, obviously an engineer who's never been to the backcountry, who has decided that public transportation is the way to go. And now we're trying to convince him that, no, honey, we don't live in the city, we live in the backcountry.
We just want roads that work.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So I'm guessing the question is, what are we going to do about the roads in the backcountry with this new guy that's running Sandy?
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah, okay. I can't say it. His first name's Hassan, but I can't.
It's guitar.
Huh?
It's guitar.
It's guitar. And I've met him a couple of times. He's a very nice guy. Now making a hauler down there as well. So I think it's gonna. No decisions have been made. It's all been proposals up to this point in time, and it's a drastic change from where Sandag had their charter based on the Transnet taxes from before. So they can't just change that because he wants to. It takes a lot of political influence to make a change like that in the transportation proposals. So your mayors are going to keep working on it, and I know you don't have a mayor Ramona, but you've got folks up there that there's a Highway 67 coalition I heard is getting started. There's a Highway 52 coalition, Highway 78 is starting to coalesce as well, which all these areas I represent. And so hopefully next year we'll be able to do some good work through the budget process in Sacramento, and then all these guys can do good work down here in the city. I'm sorry, the change of priorities in Sandag regarding transit transportation versus backcountry roads. Are you guys all together? Is it like one question out there? Yeah. If it's a fur ban, we already talked about it.
So my question is that you did mention that you voted no based on a single opinion about AB 44 that was formed from an opinion in Los Angeles. So I'm a constituent in this area. I don't feel like the question is...
When this is serious appropriations in Sacramento, you guys are more than welcome to come to Sacramento, testify on the bill. There was lots of testimony on the record in both in the community before. No, it wasn't, my opinion was not based on one man's
that was stated
statement. What I said was he made a compelling case, and I took that, I took the arguments for and the arguments against, and I weighed them all together to make my decision.
So if I can complete the question,
So
that's it.
we're going to move on. Yes, ma'am.
Kathy Martin, been a registered nurse for 44 years, lived in my family, lived 70 years here in East County, St. James. I'm concerned because the proposal by the Helix and Water District that they're going to have, Padre and Water District, that they are planning again, through all the years we've had it on the ballot, whether or not we want to drink our sewage water. And they maintain, we don't care what you think, my husband and I went to the meeting, we actually had one of the board meetings and said, I don't care what you think is going to go through. And all these years we've had it going on.
I'm sorry, I missed the segue to what are you voting on?
There isn't a vote. There isn't a
Toilet to
vote.
tap initiative.
What is it?
The toilet to tap initiative.
Oh, okay. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So Woden, Padre, and Helix want to take and have all of us stream 25% of our water, sewage water. And it used to always be a vote. So now they're leaving us only 4 for the Padre, whatever comes on Helix, 4 guys.
Right.
Okay, unopposed on the ballot, are the ones making the choice for all of us. And it was one of those guys who looked right at us and said, it's going to happen no matter what. We don't have to water well. They're going to charge us, and they said, according to I went to all the meetings, I went to oppose it, for all of when they're going to dig up all of the roads and everything to put it through. And they said that it's going to cost $500 million for the for Sandy Lakes.
Okay.
And it's going to cost $7 million a year, probably 25% because they don't have enough water. A couple of things is that we get somebody from California there to tell the people in Sacramento let the water down so we can have some. But people don't realize how toxic and how horrific that proposal is. Even if they say it's in Orange County,
Right.
if the registered nurse, I went to the morbidity and mortality
Okay,
rate.
I need you to answer the question.
That's right. Can we get this on a ballot? Not for 4 guys to make that choice,
Sure.
for all of us.
So there,
Because you do not, folks, you do not want that, because it's a horrific outcome where they want to take it and send it to Lake Jenny, let us sit there and go through this ozone thing, then we won't have a clue. According to the guy in charge, and none of them have a college education, and I didn't like the fact that Diane Jacobs' office has a gal named Taylor who thought that was smug about it, and who cares, we like that idea.
all right, so I think you
We
don't,
need to get that on a vote. And they're hiding, by the way, that's how you know, but they've been hiding that in flyers to all your homes, and you don't even have a clue what they're sending, because they send it in a technical manner, in legalese, and then they send their public school kids up.
okay, I need you to ask the question, though. I got all the feedback, and I
This
know
needs
the
to
issue.
be to a vote.
Okay,
And
so
also
you
to-
I can answer that question,
also
and I can
to-
answer the question about bringing the water down from Northern
And
County.
also too, can they be forced, please, send all of us in clear English that they are doing this, because they're not telling.
So the question was, and are you in Helix or are you in Padre? Okay. Both Helix and Padre, and probably several of the water agencies in San Diego County are working on a system called pure water, I don't know, pure water purification, something, where they're working on recycling water that comes into their sewage treatment plant and processing it and putting it back into the drinking water system. So somebody quoted from before, Roger Hitchcock famously called it toilet to tap. It died in the city of San Diego a couple of years ago. Both of these groups that are working on this, it's a demonstration program right now. I don't think anybody's putting recycled sewage water into our drinking water at this point in time. But this might be an issue where we're going to disagree. Padre, especially, because I'm more familiar with Padre than others, are doing a very good job with the science and the technology of their water purification. It's on the level of, and better than the desal plant in Carlsbad that just desalinates water, which is just as difficult to process as doing the sewage treatment. The proposal, as I understand it now, is to recharge the aquifer that runs through Lakeside and Santee, and then pull the water back out of the aquifer after it's lived a certain period of time in that aquifer. And that aquifer adds additional purification processes to the water. They're already doing that, as you rightly pointed out, they're already doing that in Orange County. And Orange County is actually making their system even bigger and better right now to get the water. Now, as far as fighting it, you've got a couple of, that's a political question, but I'll give it my best shot. You talk to your representatives, you say you've done it, and you're not happy with their answer. You have a vote that counts. That's one thing. On who you elect to the water board. The other thing is, you can do a citizen's petition, a citizen's initiative. If nothing's been approved, it can be recalled at this point in time, as far as I know, as far as the policy. But if they do approve a policy, and enough of the citizens don't like it, you do a citizens initiative to recall the policy that they passed. It takes a lot of work, and a lot of people have to be wound up about it. But we recall the senator in Orange County. We almost recalled the gas tax. It does happen. So, and then as far as getting more water from California, or from Northern California, that's a continuous dialogue that we're trying to have in Sacramento to get us more water resources down here in the city. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry? How safe do I think Prop 13 is? So Prop 13 is the law that protects your tax rate on your home and on any property that you own. It protects your tax rate from going up each year or being recessed each year. Everybody's familiar with Prop 13. Prop 13 could be on life support. And so called boo on that one too. So again, we're just at a point in Sacramento where the majority of the legislators up there feel that there's no limit to how much they can tax you and tax me. And the first thing they're going to try this year is what's called split roll, and they're going to try to convince you that splitting commercial real estate from residential real estate and taking the commercial real estate out of the protections of Prop 13 is a good idea. Well, economically, it's a very bad idea. But here's the most insidious part of their proposal when it was originally proposed a couple years ago. If you own 2 homes and rent one of them out, the one that you rent will be removed from Prop 13 because it's commercial, because you're making a revenue stream out of it. If you own an apartment building with 4 units in it, that will become commercial, which right now is not considered commercial, would become commercial property, and your income tax, the property tax rate on those units would be reassessed and increase whatever the current market value is. I'm sorry? Well, you would like people like me to fight it, for one thing. You would like people like Joel Anderson and Randy Lobel that are every day committed to protecting Prop 13. That's one thing. The other thing is you just don't buy in when the split roll initiative comes out. Don't buy into it. They're going to sell us a bill of goods on how great it is. It's for the kids. It's for the children. And it's not in those things. So just be vigilant on that issue. I'm sorry? Yeah, you can write to me and then we'll move it to we'll convey it to the right offices that are considering it. But we really need to this needs to be a statewide issue because the legislators from Los Angeles and the Bay Area, their constituents aren't as wound up about it as my constituents are. So they need to hear from people from all over the state that this is a bad idea. Yes, ma'am. That's a good, thank you. So her comment is Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, they're doing great work on that. Don't tell John McCall I forgot about him, because I'll hear about it next week when I go back to Sacramento. But yeah, Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is the leading association that's fighting anything that changes Prop 13. And they almost always win, actually. Yes, sir.
Doug Haynes, Santee. The recent Burns and Associates study authorized by the legislature has revealed that funding for programs for the intellectually disabled in California are underfunded to the amount of $1.8 billion. What needs to be done? Thank you.
There's actually a good bipartisan dialogue over there. Tell me the term again, because disabilities, right? Intellectual disabilities. The Republicans this year, through the budget process, asked the governor to approve an extra $800,000 for those programs. Unfortunately, the majority party and the governor denied our request to do that. But back up, there are several Democratic legislators that are passionate about this issue as well. So we've had some good dialogue. Unfortunately, I don't think we came up with, I think there was a little bit of extra money put in the budget this year. Certainly not $1.8 billion. I don't think it was even $500 million. And we're going to continue those conversations next year in the budget process. There is some positive momentum. You just need to keep the pressure on, and hopefully we can make a good decision on that process. And it's all done through the budget, so you want the members that are on the budget committee are the ones you're going to communicate with. I already went to you once, so I'm going to come back up here. Yes, ma'am.
Gail Prince, big time retired banker.
My mom's a retired banker too.
Yeah, you think to be retired from instead. I have concerns about mostly some of the inner city issues that we have related to homelessness, the drug addiction, the rat infestations, a lot of the other things we're seeing, which I think are all directly related to mental health issues. When is the state of California going to stop spending money frivolously for things that don't work and start focusing on the mental health issues that we have in the state?
Thank you. Every good question. The question basically is mental health as it relates to homelessness and the epidemic that we have, the homeless situation right now. Again, that's an issue where there's been a lot of talk and very little positive action. I don't know if you saw, somebody posted a video on Twitter yesterday, a young woman driving into Sacramento that owns a hair salon. And she was speaking the video to Governor Newsom. And it was very compelling. And she was making the case that she's hardworking. She's made a sacrifice to start her business. She has a couple of employees. She has a couple of independent contractors that work at her place, and every morning in Sacramento when she gets to work she has to, as politely as she can, ask the homeless person sleeping in her doorway to move out of the doorway so she can open her door for her. She has to clean off the sidewalks from them going to the bathroom on the sidewalk, their needles, everything else. And I would suggest that we all watch that. I watched this. It's a very compelling video. The bad news is the state is really not doing anything about it. And here's the problem. In the governor's State of the State address, he assigned Mayor Steinberg from Sacramento as his homeless leader, czar, I guess, or whatever. And I know the former senator, he's the mayor of Sacramento. And I saw him in the hallway in the Capitol after that. And I said, hey, I'm interested in this. I'll work with you. And I recognize that some of my things that I think are the right answers maybe aren't the right answers. So let's have a dialogue and see some of the things you think are the right answer aren't the right answer either. So how can we come together and, okay, make an appointment with my office. We'll get together. That was in February. I haven't had a meeting with him yet. And it isn't because I'm not the one going. Now, the good news on homelessness and mental health, I was with Mayor Faulkner earlier today, and he was doing the presentation. And for anybody who live in the city of San Diego? City, there's a couple. Okay, so those folks that live in the city of San Diego are going to have an opportunity to vote on the convention expansion. If you don't live in the city, it won't affect you. So if you do live in the city, you're going to have part of that funding for expanding the convention center is a dedicated funding source specifically to the city of San Diego for homelessness issues. And they have a whole program of things that they want to do with that funding source that I think some of them are good ideas. I haven't studied the whole proposal yet enough to endorse it or not endorse it, but I think he's at least trying to talk about it and come up with a real solution. We got a long ways to go on this, unfortunately. AB 109 didn't help, made it worse. Prop 47 didn't help, made it worse. Prop 57 didn't help, made it worse.
What about the county, though? That's the city, though. You're talking about the city of San Diego. What about the county?
And the county's working on it. Our locals here in San Diego are doing a much better job than anywhere else in the state. And right now in Los Angeles, in the city of Los Angeles, there's 41,000 that they counted. 41,000 homeless people in the city, living in tents, on curbs, in the middle of town. It's a third world country. In Sacramento, where I used to live in Sacramento, I could ride my bike along the river. There's river trails, paved river trails up there. And I got to the point where I couldn't even ride my bike on the river trails because they're so overrun with homeless people. And we've got to find a humane solution to the mental health aspect of it, because that is a big part of it. There's drug abuse and some other substance abuse that's part of it. And then there's people that just want to be out there. And we've got to find a way to compel those people legally, according to the Constitution, that they can't just set up camp wherever they want. And so we're going to work.
I understand that they are passing a bill that they cannot expel just not the student from school. What do you know about that?
That comes up every year. So the question is, they're going to pass a bill that you cannot expel disruptive students from class. And again, that comes from the legislators, mostly out of the LA area, that have this concept that school expulsion disproportionately impacts certain communities. And I'm just having a hard time with the evidence on that. And look, I was a disruptive kid in class. There was a couple of times I had to leave class when I didn't want to leave. But guess what? At the end of the day, it was good for me. And I got a little bit of discipline in school, and I got a little bit of discipline at home. So again, it's a bad idea that has passed some committees, and parts of it have become law. So, yes, ma'am.
Sarah Ackerman from Oklahoma. I'm our education system, and this is in regards to mental health. In San Diego County, the board of cares for mentally ill are dwindling down, and they're either closing or they're switching to independent living. And a lot of my patients really need board of cares. They're not able to manage their meds on their own, and then you have to send out home health. That doesn't last forever. Anything about that? One of the problems, I think, why they're closing or switching to independent living is because of regulations and board of cares implement.
Okay.
Thoughts on that?
So the question is, what are we going to do with live-in rehabilitation homes? Is that kind of
Well, board of cares.
board of cares?
They.
You're talking about the smaller ones, like the six person ones? Or the
Well, there are.
residential or?
There are some like heroes that have 50 patients.
So the concern is some board and cares are closing because of funding. Again, that's not an issue I was familiar with. I thought that the state spends a lot of money on in-home support care, which is different, but also a lot of money on the board and care side of stuff too. So we'll have to get into the budget process. Yes, sir.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you about our harvest.
Okay.
Keep your voice up, please.
Right. I think it's unlimited now. So the question is ballot harvesting. Yes, ma'am. Oh, the question is ballot harvesting. What is it? How are we going to combat it or deal with it? So in 2017, the majority of legislators in Sacramento voted for a bill. Before, when you had a vote by mail ballot, a family member had to carry under signature and oath and carry your ballot to the polling place or mail it. Well, they did away with that, where anybody can pick up your ballot now and take it and deliver it for you. So that was a very effective tool for some people in November to turn some of the seats in Orange County and other places, even here in San Diego, a couple of places, where massive amounts of mail-in ballots were picked up and then turned in, by anybody. That's what the law is right now. So really, there's no way to undo the law. Well, there is a way to undo the law. Again, have different people in Sacramento voting on this stuff. But it's law now. So those of us that don't like it, the best thing we can do is learn how to do it ourselves legally and start collecting ballots from our friends and family that don't have the time or won't take it in, and we take it in for them. And that's how you fight fire with fire.
They don't have the time to put it in the mailbox?
I'm not excusing the people that don't do it properly.
Well, look, the question about that, does the person who delivers those ballots sign
No.
You don't know who that person is?
Correct. That's absolutely right. Now, the question is, does the person turning them in have to sign for them or identify themselves or no? You can go door to door and collect your neighbor's ballot. They can know you or not know you, and you can turn it in. Now, you can also go to your church where people know you, or your synagogue, or your place of worship, and collect those ballots and turn them in. And that's, that one way to, again, fight fire with fire is go collect your friends and families' ballots and turn them in. I'm going to go back here, and then I'm going to do one more after that. So here and then here.
My name is Connie Phillips, and I'm also from Ramona, and my concern is disabled young adults after they age out of high school. The services, we are totally lacking services in the back country. So, this lovely young lady has started an adult day program. That's why we're here tonight. We're very grateful for it. We are still lacking so many services, including transportation. We're meeting with the county and forming a task force, but what we're asking you tonight is how do we work with the state, the Lanterman Act, other areas that can help support our program that we're trying to get started here and more services for these underserved disabled young adults.
Give your contact information to Lori, or what the concern is, and then give us some feedback on where you think you should be getting the help from the state, so we kind of have an avenue to go down.
The county's always saying it's the state's fault. That's what we're hearing as parents.
That's what governments are good at. They're good at other people.
So,
when I was on the city council, we went to county programs. So this will be the last one, and we're going to wrap up. Okay, I'll take two since you jumped up. Okay. Mr. Sumner. You go ahead. I'm sorry.
My name is Bob Benton. I live in Lakeside. Two things. I want to thank you for coming out and having this kind of little meetings. It's really important for all of us.
Thank you.
Doing in Sacramento, trying to stop the craziness. The other thing I would ask you is a procedural issue. If you could have one of your people hand a microphone to people who are asking questions here, so we can all hear what the question is, it might help.
Well, I appreciate that feedback, and we did that once, and I never got the microphone back. We'll take up to that. And the second was, you had the microphone out, so you asked the question. So that's on me. I'll do a better job of stating the question so people understand what's going on. So thank you very much for the comments. I appreciate it.
Senator, recently the governor signed a law requiring Donald Trump to divulge his taxes in order to get on the California ballot. I would assume that that law is going to be tied up in court right away. But my question is, did it also apply to Democrats?
Well, is that the question? Yes, it did. Yeah. So it was a nonpartisan bill. It didn't identify a particular person by name, but we all know what it was about. Two things on that. You can see my floor speech arguing against the bill. If you go onto my Senate page, I think it's there, or it's on YouTube. I have a YouTube page also. So you can see my floor speech against the bill. CNN actually quoted me on the bill when I was arguing that it's unconstitutional and not appropriate. So the good news today is the same California Supreme Court that I kind of lambasted earlier in the evening voted today unanimously compelling the Secretary of State that he has to show cause of why this is necessary or they're going to throw it out. Another, trivia note on that bill, Brown vetoed it when it went to Brown's desk last year. So even Governor Brown thought it was a bad idea. So let me wrap up. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. And, there's been a lot of good dialogue. And as I said at the beginning, sometimes we're going to agree, sometimes we're going to disagree. A lot of times tonight, I don't know. I had to say I don't know, so we'll look into it and get back to you. A lot of issues came up tonight that hadn't come up before. So I appreciate you all being out here. I know it's a commitment on your part. You're taking time away from your families. You're taking time away from your business. You should be at your business tonight. You're here. Thank you. And it's really an honor for me and my family to represent you in Sacramento. We do enjoy the job, even though it's I don't win all the time.